should be it. I'm trying to look for the repo. No, this is not what I want. Let me just look for that repo so that I explain what the issue is. Yeah, this is what I want. Okay, so this is the current repository. I think I've shown you guys this before, and I'm pretty sure most of you have seen this before. So now the goal is we need to transform this into a website. We've tried to, I already started the project, but I don't have enough time to finish it. So, and also I think it's a good way for you guys to try out, like to work in teams together, see how that works out. Okay, so you can see the different folders are like blog posts, because each folder has some content right here. So now the goal is to change this content into a website. So basically the markdown should be transformed into a website. Now there's a few ways of doing that with the current JavaScript ecosystem. You can use something like Next.js, which does allow you to create statically generated sites that are mostly heavily content focused. Or you can use something like a Next. Again, same principles, but they are a bit like an overkill for what we're trying to do. So I don't know how many of you have heard of Astro. Has heard of Astro JS? It's actually just Astro. Anyone heard of this platform? Anyone heard of Astro? Okay. So it's a JavaScript framework, just like you have your Reacts, your Vue.js's, but it's mostly focused on content. So if your website is mostly focused on markdown files and static files, like for example what we have in the GitHub, because this content does not change all the time, because once you've written it once, then that's it. It doesn't really change. So I figured out that the best solution or the best framework for this particular use case would be Astro. And it's very easy to write. So I think I'll go through it. And then once I'm done with a small demo, then I'll ask you guys who wants to work on it. Now, once we have a number of people who want to work on it, then I'll create a GitHub repo. And then we'll also have, like, until the website is done, we'll have probably either weekly meetings or bi-weekly, so that we see what progress you guys have made. Okay, so I'll install the thing, and then we will walk through it. So just come here. So it's just like any other, if you've worked with NPM, where like people store node packages, it's just a node package, so you can install it using npm install. But I'll walk you guys through it. So even if you've never seen a framework, no worries. I'll try to go as slowly as possible. Okay, don't worry. We'll go through it step by step. So again, the idea is transform all this content into an actual site. I had already started it, but I think I need to include you guys in the project as well, because it's not that complicated, but again, it gives you an opportunity to work as a group. Okay, so let's go into Astro. Then you can see here is the command, right? Let's go into the documentation for just a bit. Let me also share the link to the site. You can have a look at it. So if you guys want, you can also follow along as we do the installation. Okay. So you need to have Node.js installed. So anyone who doesn't have Node.js installed, I think most of us do. Okay, so if you do, just open your VS Code, open a new folder, right? And then just copy this command. So just copy this command here. Then it will take a while to install the package. Okay, so we'll just do the basics. Oh, sorry, I needed to tell it where to install. So npm create Astro latest. I think I do need the dot.
What does the dot do?
It simply tells I'm simply telling it to install in this folder so that it doesn't create a new folder. So I'm telling it npm create Astro at latest. So create an Astro project within this astro.syt folder. Don't open it don't create a new folder here, then put the code there. Just create the content within this folder. That's what I'm telling it. Okay. So let's see. Let's use this first option, the one that comes with sample files. So that's the one I've selected. Hi, Joseph. Joseph and Eunice, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Niko salama.
Yeah, so I'm just taking the guys through. So one of the projects I need you guys to work on, or we can work on together, is changing this README or this repository into our website. So we are using Astro to do that. So that's what I was walking the guys through. Astro is it's a framework, just like your Vue.js or your Angular. Just allows us to build our websites a bit faster. But they're mostly focused on content. That's why I decided to go that direction. So you can see it's installing all the packages within this folder right here. So once it's done, we'll go through it. You can see it's creating the folders for me. You have components, you have layouts, you have pages. Okay, it's taking a while to finish. Joseph, Mambo, how are you? What?
Vipi?
Oh, sana.
Ini Astro ama ni nini?
Yeah, you want to use it in the project for ile to transform the repository into what is it called, to a website.
Oh, I remember.
You remember, because none of us got time. We tried to do it, but broke one at a time. And I think it's pretty easy for the guys to pick it up.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I just want to show them like what it is and how to use it. And then if anybody is willing to take it on, then we can form that team. So if I go into the JSON file, it should tell me. So I run dev npm run dev. Again, if you've used any framework, this should be very familiar. npm run dev, npm run start. Okay, so it's opened it in localhost 3000. So there it is. Okay. So you can see to get started, open the directory source pages, and index.astro. And then now this is where we see whatever you're seeing here. Let me just make it a bit bigger. This smaller. So whatever you guys are seeing here is this content. You can see right here, welcome to, and then this is just normal HTML. We have a span that has a class text gradient and an Astro text. Okay, now I'll try to explain this by going through a full example. Okay, so anytime you want to create a new route in Astro, like think about an about page or a contact us page, you simply add it here in the pages folder. So if I come here and I simply add about Astro, because that's the extension you can use, Astro. Okay, and then I come here. Let's check again. Do we need to put anything other than the markup? Let's first of all ignore this. Ignore the importing. Let's go into about. Let's simply say given h2, say h1. This is the about page. So the way that routing works, so routing simply means going from the home page to the about page, or from the home page to the contact us page. You simply give the name of the route. So here, this is going to be transformed into /about.astro. So let's try /about and see. That's it. It's done the routing for us. We don't need to set anything up. We just have a normal markup file, normal HTML file here, and we just have, sorry, this is supposed to just be a H1, not a H1 wrapped in a H2. And that's it. Very simple. You can add another paragraph here. This paragraph. You can see it adds the paragraph. You can have links. If you want, you can have a link here. This is a link. Gives you a link. Then you can give. So this is just normal markup. But you can see how simple it is. If you want to create a contact page, then again, come here, contact.astro, just like that. And then you can simply come here and simply write h2. This is the contact us page. Now, if I come here now, I simply go to /contact. You see the contact us page. So that's all that you need to do. Just like that, and it works. Now let's try one more thing. Because I think if we just put a markdown file here directly, it should be able to transform it into HTML. So let's try. In the pages directory, I'm going to create blogs.md. Then come here and just have my markdown. This is a markdown file. Right. Now let's see whether it works. Let's see if we go to /blogs, we're going to get this is a markdown file. It should work because I don't think we need any extra setup unless we need to put it in a different folder. I don't think so. Yeah. You can see we didn't do anything. We didn't transform the markdown into HTML. It did it for us. This is a markdown file. You can come here, you can have multiple headings. This is heading. You can see it's transforming it into HTML. You can have, how do you normally write? So, and then an image. Then you give it a path to the image. So basically you can write your normal markdown here and it still works. So let's try with one of the projects from Frontend Mentor. See, and if you don't put anything within the tags, like for example, this hashtag, this normally symbolizes heading 1. So if we inspect this, from the browser, you should see it's being transformed into HTML right here. You can see. So one hash symbol obviously symbolizes H1, 2 symbolize H2. So you can think of any markdown file you have, you can simply transform it into a website that quickly. No setup, no nothing. It just does most of the things for you very, very easily. So now this is obviously like very convenient, right? Where now it gets very interesting is now you can have your JavaScript bundle within your markdown files or within your Astro files. So let's go into contact, for example, right? Let's go into the contact. Let's go back to contact for a minute. Now, if you want to include your logic, your JavaScript, it's very simple, very, very simple. Now, let's say, for example, we want this to say, so let's say, welcome to our page, or actually, let's say, hi, and then we want to pass in a name variable here. Obviously, now it will crash because name is not defined. Okay, so let's first of all hard code it. Ian. Now, if you want to include your script or your logic, you simply have this 3 dashes, and then now here you can write your markup. Sorry, your logic, your JavaScript. So for example, normal JavaScript, const first name is equal to Ian. And if I come here, I can just replace this with nothing has changed. Now I can change this to a different value. Still works. You can see just how simple it is. The code is very little, but you're doing a lot of things. What if you wanted to render something like a list? Const fruit list is equal to, again, remember this is JavaScript land. You can write JavaScript here. Orange. Okay, now we want to render this list, right, in our markup. Very simple. You have your normal markup, and then you have your li. So if you wanted to do this by hard coding it, you simply say apple. Gives you apple. You simply say peach. Gives you peach. If you don't want to hard code it, what if you wanted to now go through the list and now render the individual elements? If you've used React, this should look very familiar. So first of all, you have your curly braces, because now this is JS land. Now, anytime you want to write JavaScript, you have your curly braces. That's why you can see even here, if you work with React, this is the same thing we do with React. So here we wanted to pass in the first name, so we use the curly braces. Now here we want to loop over the fruit list, and for each element we want to render it as a list item, right? So again, fruit list dot map. This is normal JavaScript, the map function. And then for each fruit, what do you want to do? You want to render an LI, and then within the LIs, you want to render fruit. And see, same thing, apple, peach, orange. So it's very, very easy to now couple all your JavaScript and your markup in one page. Now, you can also have your styles within this file, if I remember correctly. I think you can say style, right? And then you can target the H2 here. Simply say H2, and then color that to green. Let's see whether it changes to green. What did we do? No, this should just be green, I think. Yeah. Let's try a more bold color, like red. You can see it's changing there. Very simple. Like you can have your logic is here. Even for example, even a fetch request, you can just put it here, and then you just render it happen within there, right here within the markup, and then you can style it. And then by default, your styles are scoped. So if I have another H2 in my homepage or in my blogs page, right? Because in our blogs page, we do have another H2. This is a H2, even though it's markdown, it is a H2. But if you go into the about page, blogs page, sorry, go into the blogs, you can see this one is not being styled with the color red, right? That's because your styles are scoped to their components. So when I go back into contact, and see this one is red, but it's only targeting this H2, not all the H2s on the page. Even if I turn this into a H1 and I come here and instead target a H1, it's only going to style this one. It's not going to style all the other H1 elements on the page. So they are scoped by default, right? So your styles are scoped to whatever file they are in. That's another very handy feature. So it's a very nice framework. I really like it because it makes things so very, very easy. If you've come from a React world, you can already see this is way easier to work with. Obviously, it has its limitations, but just getting started looks way, way easier than a React or even a Vue.js. So even if you remove all this, if I remove this and I remove the style, that's just normal HTML. Like if you saw this code for the first time, maybe you would not really understand what the curly braces are doing, but the rest, maybe even this for loop, but you could intuitively say, okay, I can see there's a map here. I can see it has the normal signature of a map. So it has to be some sort of array if you've done JavaScript. So comments, what do you guys think? But the idea is we need to move this content and then transform it into a page. So comments, what do you guys think of the framework? Any question? Who has a query? Something I need to explain.
I'm just wondering.
Sorry, you dropped off kidogo.
Anyway, I'm just wondering. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Do you have to easy styles? You have to put them in every respective page, because if someone is coming from a vanilla JavaScript background, you had the index HTML and then the style, the CSS style that you link at the top of each page. So what happens? Yeah, you write a style for each individual Astro page.
No, you don't have to. You can still do the normal linking that you normally do. So I'm going to show you an example of that. So if we go, I do think we should have, okay, there's no. So let me just do it from scratch. So, because that's a good question, very good question. So let's create another page. Or we could just use the about since there's nothing here. So again, this is, you can write your normal JavaScript here, normal HTML here. I don't know whether Prettier will work for me here. Yeah, it's not working. So let me just go into layouts. I'll explain layouts a bit later. Let's take this hapa. And I can go into my about, paste this in, and I can remove this, and also remove the slot. So if you have your normal CSS files, you just create them the way you normally do, right? So if you want your styles to be the same as you normally do with vanilla, then you can come here, you can create your styles folder, then you can have your app.css, and then we can say we want the body, our background color of black, right? And then we can go back to that about, simply come here, because it's normal HTML, just link it like you normally do. Href, I think we should go, how many folders up in the pages? Go up one folder, then go into styles, and go into app.css, and rel is a style sheet. And then you can say this is the, just the about page here. And within the body, we can say h2 is the about page. Now we need to go into about. Okay, let's inspect it. See whether I see what's going on. Okay, app.css.found. So what did we do wrong? Must be something with the path. Okay, so let's remove it here. Let's put it in the pages, see whether that works. Or maybe it's supposed to be in the public. That's why we have static assets, but I'm not sure. Let's just first of all try. Okay, we are still not getting anything. Let's try to put it in the public. But I'm pretty sure you can do what someone is asking. You can definitely have global styles. Let's put it in the public because most of the time static assets are served from your public. Styles slash CSS. Yeah. So you can see the background is now black. So if I go back to the CSS file and I also give it a color for the text of white, I should see the text. Why am I not seeing the text? Okay, should have been able to see my color. Let's see, give it a red. There it is. So if you want to serve, if you have your static files, you have to put them in the public folder. That's how you'll be able to get access to them. That's where all your static assets are served from. But you can definitely do it. You can definitely have all your styles in one style sheet and then just use them like this. But you're going to realize after you build for a while that the approach of having your styles scoped in their own components is way easier to work with, because now your CSS is not such a big file. It's small styles depending on the component. So let's I think we can do an example. But any other questions? Samuel, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. You did, thanks.
Anyone else with a question? Anyone else with a question? Okay, let's go into this file. Okay, and then let's delete everything here. And we will remain with only the layout. Okay. Maybe also remove this card. Now the layout, when you have a folder called layouts, it's exactly that. There are things in your page that do not change. For example, your header section. This is always going to be the same. So instead of having a different header section or this main, instead of having a different one for every page, which is how normal vanilla would have been if you're not using any framework, what it does is it allows you to have a layout. So this is like the base for the whole of your page, right? So have an icon, which is linked right here. Then we have your normal content width, which tells your browser how to respond when you go from a small page to a big page. And then we have a title here. Now for 1 minute, I'll remove this for now and just put a static thing here. Okay, home page. Now this slot is exactly that. It's a slot. So what it does, now keep in mind, right? Keep in mind this markup up to this point. So anything that you put here as a slot will be inserted between the body tags. So now let's look at an example. The index page, this one here, you can see we are importing layout from layouts/layout.astro. And then the layout is being used as an element. But you can see the capital L, meaning it's not your normal HTML element. So we simply wrap this in our content. Hello. Sorry, hello. Now, if I go and inspect that page, I go into elements, you can see right here, you can see the initial slot, the initial template right here. And then our H2 is simply put into that slot here. When you have an element, if you have an Astro component and it doesn't have that layout, okay, so for example, our about page and our contact us page, they don't have that initial, we are not wrapping it over a layout. Right? We don't have this, we are not saying, we are not taking our markup and then placing the layout here. We are not doing this. We are simply passing it in directly like that. If you check the markup for this page, which is contact, if I go back to the code, I just navigate to /contact. Now, if I inspect this, you can see right here, we do have the HTML, we do have the head, right? But we don't have the meta content. We don't have the title. There's no title here. Compared to the index page, you can see the head does have some meta characters. So this is good for SEO. You have the title, you have the name, you have the link. But if you check the other one, out, it does not have that. Okay, this one does have it. That's because we had coded this. We did not use a layout. The contact does not have it. Just has some scripts that these are being used by, this is like some internal implementation. We did not write this code. So the slot simply wraps your markup because you don't want to keep repeating yourself. So you just have a layout like this, and then you have a slot. So anything that comes between the slot is going to be put within the body tags. For us to transform our contact to do that, then we simply wrap it in layout. It here. And this layout expects something called a prop. It'll simply say about page. So now if you inspect it again, you can see because we wrapped it now in the layout, we do have something here. We have that same content. It's saying homepage because we had coded this. If I wanted to change this to now use whatever the user passed in, again, I go into the layouts and instead of hard coding homepage here, simply give it, I think, title. Now we have about page here. Any questions? I hope it does not look too intimidating. I hope it does. It's if you've used any other framework, or even if you haven't really, other than the import, maybe syntax and the 3 dashes, and maybe the layout, everything else is familiar. This is just normal CSS. This is normal markup. This is normal JavaScript. So I think we can do one example. I think that might help you guys to really understand it. So when you're normally nowadays with most frameworks, your UI is split into things called components. So let's look at an example. So if you go into React.js, let's use that for an example. If you go into their page, if you go into their new docs. Now, the way to think about components is every section of your UI is a component. You can split your whole UI into small chunks. So this can be one component, this right here, this header here. This can be another component, this navigation. This can be another component. These 2 cards can be another component. Like literally everything on your page can become a component. This button can become a component. Okay, so now let's try to create something like a nav bar. Okay, so let's go back to our code. Let's go into index.astro. Let's remove this. Then let's go back to our home page. It's empty. We want to have a navigation bar here at the top. Okay. So just do your normal coding the way you normally do it. Okay, so you can have your nav here, have your navigation right here, and then you can have your links. So first we can have like a tag that says logo, right? And then right here we can have our UL right here. A perfect example of somewhere we can use the list rendering, right? So instead of hard coding, like have your li, and then you have your a tag, then you have your home, right? What we can do is, because we know we are going to be rendering a list of stuff, right? We can do is we can simply come here, a const, and then we can say links is equal to, then give it an array, and you can say home about contact. Okay, then right here, right, we can now render the individual home about contact. Because essentially what we want is an LI that has home about in contact. So what we do, come here, okay, so let me go back to right here. Okay, so what we do if we want to render the individual elements, so home, about, and contact, is we can do the list rendering. You can come here, right, have your curly braces because we now want to loop over the links. And you simply say links dot map, and then map takes in a callback function. So for every link, I want to return an li, an a, then here simply put in link. And see we have home, about, and contact. Now let's also style it. Into styles, let's remove all this code. Because we know they are scoped, we can simply target the nav. Say nav display flex, then justify content space between. That will go to the other end. Then align item center. Okay, and then because we also know that this UL also needs to be a flex box because we want them to be as a row. So again, UL display flex, fix it already. There we go. And then you can simply come here and say give them a gap of 4 pixels, and then list style none. Let's make it a bit bigger. 10 pixels. We just put them side by side. And let's also say we want this to have a background color of black and a color of white. And then we want padding 10 pixels. There we go. Just like that, you've already created a navigation bar. Right. Now, when we talk about components, it simply means you can now remove this logic and put it within another. You can create a new folder. You can come into components. You can create a new component here called navbar.astro, just like that. So now this has created a new empty folder, a new empty file, haina kitu hapa ndani. Then you can simply come into the index, take the logic, like this, go into navbar.astro, paste it in, then go back into our index. We know we need the styles, so we simply take the styles with us, cut them into the nav, paste them in. We also know we need the list, right? I come here, I know I need this list. Take it, go to the navbar. This is how you include your JavaScript. Paste it in. Now we have no more errors. So we simply removed that code from the index file and put it separately as its own component, a part of the UI. Okay, now if you want to use it now, same thing, you simply go into the index, and then you import it. It's like importing layout, you can also import navbar. And there we go. So you can see it's pretty easy to use it. It's very easy to use, very intuitive. It look a bit complicated, but it's very, very easy to use. So you can imagine if you wanted now a hero section, you can split that out as well as its own component and then simply include it hapa chini. Same with a footer. You can create a new footer component right here and then simply import it into whatever component you want to use. So the card Astro is still here. You see it right here. It's a bit more complicated, but same methodology. You have your styles, you have your markup, you have your logic, your JavaScript basically. Okay. Any question? Nimewashtua ama it's not as difficult.
I think it is pretty straightforward.
Yeah. It's not, even if you've never interacted with like a framework, it should be it's very easy to follow because they've done a lot of the things for you, whether it's managing state or just trying to have your logic and your markup exist in the same place. Because you can imagine doing the same thing with vanilla, like list rendering, like looping over something. You'd have to say document query selector, then get that element and then loop over that array and so forth and so forth. But with this one, it's very simple. You simply define your logic here, your JavaScript, and then you use it in your markup, like here. Okay. Any other person with a comment on that? So the aim is this is all markdown, including the images. This is all markdown. It needs to be transformed into to HTML. So I think we can actually do like one page just to show you. And you can also use Tailwind here. It also allows you to use Tailwind. So let's try to change this one page, imoja too. Let's try to change it into markup, into HTML. I think I should have this folder somewhere. So I will go into open a new window. Let's try to change this, only this first page. See what that gives us. It's going to File, New Window. Let's go into File. Open Recent. Okay, why am I getting this error? Okay, so let's try one of them. This is the SYT folder. This is the README right here. Okay, so let's take this. This is just normal markdown. Let's take this right here. Now why my VS Code is misbehaving. Take paka hapo. I've just copied that code, this markdown, and then I will go back to my file right here. So in my index.astro, instead of having all this, I'll simply have a new file. So I'll come here, I'll change this name to index.md. It is a markdown file. And then I will simply switch out this code in markdown. Then it's complaining because of the image. So asset banner image. So let's go into the page. Let's see whether we have something first of all. There. Now let's get the image just for now. Remember the assets, you put them within the public folder. So assets with the banner SVG. So let's take this. Right down. Okay, so we have the image there. Then let's simply target it here. I think it should already fix it. So it does. We change this. Change this here. Yeah. Obviously, it needs to be styled, but you can see just by doing that, you already have it's already been transformed into a HTML document. Obviously, it does need some to be styled and whatnot. But you can see this is running on localhost, so it's running on the browser. So that's what we mean when we say we are trying to transform that page into the documentation page into our website. You can see it's pretty straightforward. Even for the list, it did that for us. Anything, and then Tailwind has an extension that you can now use with markup, which is very handy. So let's try to add some more content. Simply take this and simply just paste it in. Still work. Let's see. So that's what we mean when we say it allows us, like, it's very content focused. You can just write your markdown file and just transforms it into HTML. I hope that was not too much. I hope it's making sense as to why this particular framework is so useful. You can do such stuff with it. Any question? But don't worry, it's not like you're going to be doing it on your own without any help from either me or Joseph or anybody else who is going to be working on the project. We'll definitely walk you through it, but I just need to know, like, who is willing to do it, who is willing to help with it. Anyone who is willing to work on the project, not alone, obviously, I'll also be part of it. You can walk through the documentation, you can go through the code. When using components, you break down the entire site and import it. You don't have to do it for all. You don't have to do it that way for all the, like, for everything on your page. You don't have to. It's just, yeah, it's sometimes you do need to have that reusability. For example, buttons. Buttons normally have very similar shapes or markup, right? You have a button, and then you find the only thing that is different is maybe the color, the background color, or the content. So that would be a perfect thing to change into a component. Yeah, that's also a good question. I think most of the time it just depends on what do you think you're going to reuse again and again. So in the previous implementation, when we started the page, I don't know whether it's going to allow me to go back to what I had. Let's see, because I want to show you a perfect example of okay, so we have that back to the way it was, port layout, undo. How much undo it will allow me to do. There we go. So this was the initial markup that we had when we first loaded the page, right? When we did the npm install. Now, for example, the layout, because it's something reusable, you want to use the layout component to wrap your whole page, right? So you want to keep reusing it over and over again because the code within the layout component is repeating itself. You don't want to keep writing the same code. So for example, that metadata, that meta information you have in layouts, this information here in the head section, right? Other than the title, everything else will mostly remain the same. So instead of just having this over and over again, so you can imagine in your about.astro, like the way you've done it here, this is a perfect example. You can see here, we are repeating ourselves. Other than this link here, we are repeating ourselves. So a good way to implement that would be to wrap that in a component and write it once and then import it. Now the card, this card component here that they created for us, let's say this is normal markup. Right here, this is just normal markup up to here, and then you have your styles. If you check the index.astro, the main page, go into the main page. Let's go back to the main page right here. Now look at your UI. You will start to see there's things that are very, very similar, right? Look at this. They have the same size, same width, same height. The only difference is the content. You can see here, this one, and this one. That's why they did not do this thing. They did not hard code them at one by one. You don't have a HTML for card and then another one for this and then another one for this. Individually, you create a component called card. Like you can see they've done right here. Create a card. Create a card. And then they simply looped over it. That's what they did. You have a card that has the initial structure of the card. So the card is going to take in a title and some content, the body right here. And then we simply use the card in our page. If you go to index.astro, we are importing the card here from components card.astro. And then we have our layout. Then we have our main. And then here's our card. It's our card right here. Here is card one. Card one has different information. If I come here and I say, instead of documentation, I say docs. It becomes docs. Come here and I change this to theming. Then the last one becomes theming. This one becomes, you can say, integrate. But the reason they did that is because they all have the same shape. All of them have the same shape. All the cards. The only difference is the content. That's the only difference. I hope I answered your question, Samuina. It normally depends most of the time. After doing it for a while, you're just going to intuitively know when you need to use a component and when you don't need to use one. Okay. All right. right. So don't worry, even if you've never done it before, we will walk you through it. I just need to have like people who want to work on it. Like if you want to work on it, just tell me, and then I'll set up the repository, and then we'll set up like weekly meetings until we finish, because we have like 2 weeks to finish it. It's not that much once you understand what is going on. So maybe I can give you guys maybe like 2 days to play around with it, and then you can get back to me if you want to work on the project. But don't take too long. Plus, it's a very good portfolio project, I think. So I give you time, and then you'll tell me. Evans, what do you think?
I don't think I need time. I mean, I want to be part of it.
Okay, so I add you to the repo.
Yeah.
Okay, so who else? Who else want? This might be your first delve into like a framework, or it might give you some idea of what frameworks do, and you're not going to be doing it alone. So I can give. Who else is willing to give it a shot? Even if it's not now, maybe I can ask you again in like 2 days. That is Wednesday. Yes, Davis.
Me too. That had responded to the chat.
Okay, so no problem. So all right. So if you feel like you
most guys didn't. All I can say, I can say also most guys did not join, so maybe you could ask in the WhatsApp group. Or they don't have an idea of Astro. I don't know.
Yeah. We can, because I also want us to split into roles. So we'll, as on top of writing the code, someone will also be in charge of come on GitHub. So setting up the repository, if we need to have like CI/CD, someone will be in charge of that, because we are trying to have the whole development experience. So yeah, I need like a number. Yeah. So I think I'll also ask in the group, but they need to have like an understanding. Like, that's why I wanted to do the demo. That way you can see what Astro is all about. But if by that day we will not have anybody else, then we'll start the ones who will have reached out to me. But again, you have 2 days to play around with Astro, see whether you like it. So, and I'm glad it's making sense, Amoina. Now, but nowadays, if you do it once or twice, then it will make way more sense. Maybe the initial, she left. I think she's having issues with the internet. But anyway, Eunice, what do you think? More time?
I mean, I'll contribute.
Okay, so that's Joseph. Do you think you'll be able to make time?
Yeah, it's not too big of a project. I guess I'll have some time to spare for it.
Okay, so Wednesday we will have like a tentative answer. Yes, Eunice.
You can send the recording to the group.
Yeah, I will. I'll send it to the group right after we are done. Okay. All right. So that's one, but there are actually 2 projects. But the other one, I'll tell you when we have the other.
Yeah, actually, I was about to ask about the other one.
Yeah.
You said you already started on it.
So that one, we were waiting on the designs for the project.
Yeah.
The designs came in today. I'd already started, but we'll have to redo the thing. This one is a bit more involving. So what Specific is doing is we want to create something like a list. don't know how many of you have been to ADP list. So basically a place where mentors can interact with mentees. But now our own thing, we want to create our own thing. So we've been waiting on the designs. So 2 pages are out, the sign up and the sign in page. The rest are still being worked on. But even for that one, we do need, I'm yet to decide, we need a team. So instead of looking for people from outside, I know some of us already know React, and it's going to be using React. So for that one, I think what we're going to do is when we have all the admins present, which should be sometime either this week or next week, they need to give a pitch for what we are trying to do. And then now at that point now, we can now segment who is going to work on what section, who's going to work on what. That's a very, very big project. Ni kubwa kabisa, because we already have people working on the back end. Imebaki tu sasa to develop the front end. Because even the website we have of Spacia Tech, even that one needs to be redone. We need to redo the whole thing. I think Hudson is the guy who is in charge of engineering. I think he used Angular, if I'm not wrong. But there are some elements of it that are not complete. So even this would be another very good opportunity to take part in something like this. Yeah, so I don't know whether I can show you just a minute. Let me see whether I have access to that. I want to show you the designs we have. Did I? Just a minute. Okay, I think I still have it. I still have access. Okay. So let me share my screen again. So sasa inawapatia leakage. Nobody has seen this other than me and the internal team. So I think this is one of the finished pages. You guys can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so what pages are done? So this is some of the things that have been finished. You can see we have the login and the sign up page, pamoja na the dashboard. Okay, and then if we scroll a bit, you can see more of the, so this is mobile, this is desktop, same for the dashboard for desktop. So this is the project. I was waiting on the designs, but they are finished. So at least 2 of them are finished. So we can now begin working on it. Yeah. So yeah, basically this is the project.
It looks involving until
It is a full. This is like a full application with everything.
yeah.
Because this was worked on designers, so that's already half the work done.
And the backend is also done.
The backend is already being done. It's not finished, but it's already being done by. There's a team that is working on the backend, and I'm the one who's in charge of the front end. Yeah, so I thought I need to give some of you guys an opportunity to be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but this one will be we'll be able to tell you more about it when we have all the admins will pitch the idea to you guys. Sawa, but again, who wants to be part of that one? But again, even for now, I will not have the final say until until that meeting. I don't want you guys to commit to something that you might not be able to see through, because that one is a very big one. It's not going to take like 2 weeks. It'll take a while. Yeah, but that one I'll reach out to you guys, or you can reach out to me directly, and then we'll talk. So, okay. Anyone with a question or a comment? Pauline, I see you joined late. I'll send the link to today's recording in the group so that you can go through it. Samina, you're back. You're almost ending.
I'm
Hi,
having
Paul.
internet issues, so
Yeah,
that's why I got a bit in late. Sorry for that.
it's okay, no problem. I'll send the link to the recording in the group, and you guys can have a look at it. But essentially, it was just some of those projects you want to work on. So I'll bring you up to speed. Don't worry. I'll tell you about it. Okay. If nobody has a question or anything, maybe it's just to find out like the projects, the front-end mentor ones. Have you guys made any progress? Or are you having any issues with hosting or anything? Because Wednesday we will go through the projects. I know I saw Samoina had been able to host her sunny side. But again, you have until Wednesday to try to figure it out. I will assume the silence means you're all okay. So
Yeah, I have not faced any problem personally.
you finished all of them.
No, the last one I'm yet to style for desktop, but yeah, that's the only bit remaining.
Okay, so no problem. Nashida. I guess we'll talk about hizo projects on Wednesday. No problem. You have time to finish Nashida. Okay. So if there's nothing else, thank you guys for joining. Now, I don't think we'll have a session tomorrow. I think actually we do. Sharon will be joining us tomorrow for CV reviews and portfolios and just the whole job hunt situation. So I hope you guys will join tomorrow in large numbers. Okay. All right. So I'll see you guys tomorrow at 5:15. You enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.
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 Ian,
Mm?
he mi si nimetoka na stima za huku, my god, hatujakuwa na stima afternoon yote.
Mm.
Mm.